Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Ohakade. I'm the composer for the symphonic metal project Valkata, and today I'm reviewing Yesterwynde, the latest album from Nightwish. I did react to the album in full on the day of release, and I also did a full lyrical analysis, so if you'd like to watch those videos, the links are in the description. But now it's been just over 2 weeks since the album's release. I've had time to digest the album a little bit more, to really gather my thoughts on it. So I wanted to do this review as an update to really condense my true feelings on the project and give as fair an assessment as I can as a composer and as a mega fan of the band. If you're watching this video, you are probably, like myself, a huge Nightwish fan. So I'll spare you the details on their bio, their history. We all know who they are. We all know what they're known for. We all know this is their 10th studio album. So I'll get to the point. What are my overall thoughts on this album? In general, I think this album is excellent, but it is heavily flawed. That's it in a nutshell. And I think that brief assessment is something most fans could probably agree on. First, I'd like to start by talking about what this album does well. The biggest thing, which kind of goes without saying, Tuomas has an innate ability to elicit profound, deep, intense emotions from the listener. And that is something that we always get with Nightwish albums, something that I always thoroughly enjoy. This album is full of that kind of intense emotion. Those moments that are utterly moving, that bring you to tears, that paint a fantastical picture in your imagination, sweep you away to a different world. That old magic will never go away. As far as I'm concerned, that's why I always love whatever material Nightwish will put out. And in that sense, at least in my view, Nightwish can never put out a bad album because I know that Tuomas as a composer is always gonna deliver. And as a lyricist, of course. Let's not forget that. Secondly, the performances largely from the rest of the band on this album. The guitars, the drums, the bass, and of course, the lead vocals by Floor, the pipes by Troy. Stunning, flawless performances all around. They really captured magic in all of their takes. The heart and soul can really be felt in those performances. The orchestral work is just mind-blowing. I really have to give a shout out to James Sherman, who stepped up for the first time to take over orchestral and choir arrangements on a Nightwish album after Pip Williams had to retire. James did an absolutely incredible job of bringing the compositions to life through the orchestra and choir. His work on Perfume of the Timeless in particular really made my jaw drop. Another really interesting thing about this album is that it's so full of textures. There are so many different instruments, so many different kinds of percussion. You have giant timpanis, you have acoustic guitars, you have sitars, flutes, piano, horns, regular choir, the children's choir, the tribal choir, harp. It goes on and on. So Yesterwynde is so rich with texture, and that is a big reason why it never gets boring. There's always something to listen for, something that you're not catching. So the tapestry is endless. You can stare at it forever and always find something new. Now I'd like to address some of the shortcomings of the album, or what I personally see as some shortcomings. First of all, let's get the mix out of the way. This is a common criticism of the album. I go back and forth on this, but I have concluded that the mix is acceptable, but it is baffling that this is the mix that they all agreed was fine for a final release. Now that I've heard it enough, I'm used to the mix and I can pick things out, but I just can't help but imagine how much more pleasant this album would be to the ears if the mix was closer to, say, Human Nature, which had really great mixing. I actually think, to be honest with you, that this album might have made my tinnitus worse. I suffer from a little bit of tinnitus from listening to, I'm a musician, it happens. Obviously, since I'm trying to get into this album over the last couple of weeks, I've been listening to it in headphones, through speakers, but mostly through headphones, and it's very tiring on my ears. And my tinnitus got worse. I'm not even lying about this. My tinnitus got worse over the last couple of weeks, and that's speculation and conjecture, right? Could be totally unrelated, but could also be related. I just feel like the frequencies are all over the place on this mix. And I think because Floor's vocals are mixed more into the instrumental and orchestra rather than being at the forefront, perhaps I have a tendency to turn up the volume more than I would on any other album, thereby forcing more sound onto my ears. It's a very peculiar phenomenon, this mix. It's confused us all, but it is intentional. We just have to suck it up, I guess. Yes, at this point I'm used to it, and it's acceptable, but we'll always be left wondering why. The next thing I'll bring up is that I think the actual quality of the songwriting varies quite a bit from track to track, and the flow of the album is quite inconsistent. We have some songs that feel very cohesive and powerful as one big punch, one piece. Then we have other songs that meander quite a bit and take unexpected turns, for better and for worse. Some songs perhaps go on a little bit too long. They're a little bit too indulgent. They don't really care to trim the fat, they really encourage the fat. This leads to the second half of the album losing quite a bit of steam, in my opinion, as we've lost the punchiness of the first half and we're not quite getting to the point anymore. And I think part of that is having a whole orchestra and choir at your disposal and wanting to get your money's worth out of it. I know it must be painful to record an orchestral passage and then perhaps come to the realization that actually the album would be better without this orchestral passage that we spent so much money recording. So there is some questionable bloating in the tracks and in the album overall, with one song in particular that I think could be removed entirely, but we'll get to that. And like I said, the focus largely is on texture and not so much compact songwriting. And this means that the songs and the vocal melodies sometimes aren't really that catchy, unfortunately. There are some definitely very catchy songs and moments on the album, but there's long passages of vocals and vocal melody that just don't really stick with you. And the lyrics poetically on this album are super solid, but I will get to a certain criticism where I feel some of the lyrics take precedence over how they fit with the vocal melody, meaning that the vocal melody ends up sounding awkward because we're trying to fit so many words and syllables into it. I'm sure you guys know what songs I could be talking about there. The next thing I have to bring up as its own point regarding this album is Troy's vocals. What Troy does is not singing. What he's doing is basically talking on pitch. He's not engaging his diaphragm, and his throat isn't totally relaxed where there's lots of air flowing out and he's using himself as an instrument. What he's doing is using his throat to navigate the pitch somewhat competently, but as far as power and emotion goes, it's non-existent. I get that he is a core member of the group at this point. He's a good friend of Tuomas specifically, and I assume the other members too. I understand that if you're a member of the group and you want to sing as an artist in your own work, you have every right to do so. But it's important sometimes to realize your limitations and let your ego go in the interest of the final piece. This is something that Tuomas actually talks about a lot. He makes the point of just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should do something. Everything we do should serve the song. And Troy's vocals simply don't add anything to these songs. And believe it or not, Floor has actually made this point herself. In an interview with Aardschok magazine, and I learned this on Reddit. I'll link the post below so you can see for yourself. Someone translated this interview with her, and she made the point that she really feels like Troy could have sung less on this album. I think that's putting it kindly, honestly. And she was surprised that, for example, his vocals were so prominent on the song Sway. So it's funny to me that she never even knew that his vocals were going to be on that song. It's also peculiar to me that since Flor and Troy are in the same band, that she would not offer him some guidance or tips for his singing as someone who is such a vocal master. Now, of course, I know that she can't force her advice on him. But if everyone is in good communication with regards to how the music can be improved, it's funny that Troy could consider himself a vocalist that doesn't need advice, or that Flor could make the comment publicly to a magazine that she thinks he could have sung less, but wouldn't feel comfortable asking him if he needs help personally. And maybe she did offer him help, and maybe he refused. I really don't know what's going on there. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on there? And how did she not even know he was going to be on the song? You know, I feel like myself, and I would say the majority of fans, are not going crazy when we say that Troy either has to really work hard on his vocal technique, or he needs to take a step back from the vocals, because it's getting a little ridiculous now. You know, we have some really beautiful moments on this album that are plucked away from us by mediocre and frankly amateurish vocal delivery. I'll finish off this point by conceding that his voice works reasonably well as background vocals, as harmonies, as texture in support of Flor's lead vocal, and we'll talk about the examples of that once we go through the tracks. And the final general point that I'll make, which I've kind of alluded to a little bit already, is that the flow of the album, the order of the tracks, could have a nicer flow. It's possible that the tracks are ordered to support the story and theme rather than sonically. I personally prefer more sonically based peaks and valleys. So I do have a suggested reordering that I have in mind that I'll show you once we go through the album track by track. So I'll summarize my thoughts briefly on each individual track. Yesterwynde. This is such a beautiful opener to the album. I believe we have some organ work in here, yet another really great texture. The choir sounds beautiful. The melodies are intricate, not too predictable, but also they have that earthy feeling of emotion, time. Flor's vocals are just stunning. A really, really pretty, emotional start to the album that totally captures the imagery evoked by the word itself, Yesterwynde. I absolutely love this intro. An Ocean of Strange Islands. Potentially my favorite song of the album. You could probably see in my album reaction how excited I was to hear this level of energy. And not only energy, but the orchestra supports this song so well. It makes it feel so huge, so epic. There are quite a lot of words in the vocal melody, especially in the verses. It's quite quick fire, but I think it works here. Flor navigates it really well and is able to project some real power in the verses. The chorus is just amazing. Those long extended notes over the chord, it's such a release, such a moment. Possibly the best use of Flor's voice I've ever heard in a Nightwish song. When I first heard that Flor would be the lead singer of Nightwish, this is the kind of song that I pictured. It's just a beautiful track, instant classic Nightwish song for me. There's so much emotion in this song, so much power, so much energy. The outro is really beautiful too, with Troy's pipes and the building of the choir and the orchestra. I have no words. They nailed it with this song. My only criticism for it, and I could go either way on this, is that maybe the middle instrumental section could be shortened a little bit. They got a little indulgent with that, but very mild criticism. I'm perfectly happy to settle into it. It's a banger. We all know it's a banger, let's be real. Next song, the Antikythera Mechanism. This is quite a popular song amongst fans, I've noticed. I personally don't get the hype about this one. It sounds to me like what you would get if you dropped in all of the songs from Endless Forms Most Beautiful and Human Nature into an AI prompt. It just sounds like a lot of recycling of older ideas. It's competently done, for sure, and it is growing on me. The strongest part of this song is certainly the middle section. The middle instrumental section where it suddenly breaks into an alternate groove. We have some really sick guitar riffs, good choir stabs, interesting spoken word parts over the metal. The drumming is insane. The more delicate, brief moment before the final chorus with just the electric guitar and the strings floating, that's a really gorgeous moment. So yeah, this song has some strong moments, and you know what? I actually don't even mind Troy's part on this song, and that's maybe because he's harmonizing with Floor a lot here, but that pre-chorus part in the song is kind of weird, but cool. It's like one of the best parts. I don't know, the riffs overall in this song, and even the chorus, just sound a bit stiff, and that's the only way I can describe it. But of course, I know that this is a popular one. I don't mean to go too hard on it. It's just not for me. Mostly, but I am happy that people are enjoying this song. Next is The Day Of, another controversial one. I find this song to be quite strong after multiple listens. Really strong texturally, love the electronic details. The chorus is mad catchy. The implementation of the kids' choir I was kind of unsure about at first, but I get now that they do add a nice colour to the track. We have another strong instrumental section in this song that's beautifully melodic. Very detailed guitar work by Empu really lifts the song up. The song has a really strong finish orchestrally, profound ending with the key change in the choir and Floor's vocals and the orchestra. Really, really strong song. My criticism of this one would be that the verses and the amount of lyrics that Floor is trying to fit into this vocal melody, the way it's being delivered, is quite awkward. And this is a trend that I've noticed, that Tuomas is writing these unreasonably fast vocal melodies with tons of words that Floor has to somehow, miraculously fit into these bars. I don't know why he's so reluctant to reduce the amount of words in the song and let Floor have longer notes so that her voice can really resonate and she's not rushing between these parts. She does her best here, but there's only so much you can do when you're forced to say all these random words. And I'll even go so far to say that if you really want to have a verse with so many words, why not just rap it? Wouldn't it be cool if these verses were just straight rapped by Floor without any vocal melody, just spoken? We've gotten a little hint of her spoken word rap style in The Greatest Show on Earth with the verse, "The cosmic law of gravity pulled the newborns around the fire." And to be fair, that's not quite rapping, but it's getting there. It's rhythmical, it has no melody, it's spoken poetry. It's really not much of a step further to remove the melody from the verses in The Day Of and focus on the delivery, the spoken delivery of it. I think that this song would have been super sick if the verses were straight rapped by Floor. It's the melody in the verses that make it sound awkward because they're just not written by a vocalist with the mechanism of singing in mind. So in summary, I actually am a huge fan of this song, but I have strong feelings about the way the verses were treated. Next song is Perfume of the Timeless. This is truly a phenomenal track. You can also see my very first reaction to it. I'll leave a link in the description. Honestly, I think they kind of blew their load a little bit by releasing this one as a single. This is one of the best songs on the album. Arguably the most epic. It's such a centerpiece in the tracklist. So you're really gonna spoil that as a single? I'm kicking myself for listening to this song before the album release, because I know that my initial experience of listening to the album would have been elevated so much more by hearing this song as part of the overall album journey. So I've decided now, in their next album release cycle, I'm not listening to any singles. It's going to be a straight listen the whole way through, and I recommend that for you too. But on the positive side, I love this song. It's a little bloated in the beginning and at the end, I guess, but the chorus is unbelievably catchy. I love the chord progression of the song. The orchestration is so friggin' majestic. Thanks again, James Sherman, for that. The horns in particular go crazy. my mind is blown. It's just a fantastic song that lifts the album up immensely. Now, I just realized that I'm not addressing the lyrics of all of these songs. I'm really only talking about the music. If you want my in-depth thoughts on the lyrics, you can watch my lyrical analysis. But in general, I found that the way the music represented the lyrics in these songs was quite well done. And for example, Perfume of the Timeless is so vast and epic, and the way it tells the story of our ancestry is such a huge thing to write about that the hugeness of the music suits that really well. The next song is Sway. Now, this song I think is the weakest track on the album. It has some pretty moments, but the song is sort of split up into three parts. We have the initial verses and chorus from Floor and Troy. Then we have the big reveal section, which is a cool lift. It's an interesting development. But then we have a third section, which is, again, a more atmospheric thing with the vocalists doing some ad-libs over it. I think the song could have done with removing one of those second sections. Probably the atmospheric ad-libbing part could have been cut. Even though it is pretty, especially what the orchestra is doing, I find the ad-libs to just be a bit over the top and kind of cheesy, especially Troy. However, like I said, his voice actually works well enough in this song, much to Floor's disagreement, apparently. He offers a good texture to her lead, and this is the only song really that I'm happy with him being on as a sort of harmonizer, I suppose you could say. So yeah, the beginning of this song is quite pretty and stuff. I just don't think that this song needs to be on the album. This is the one song that I think could be removed. And the lyrics also aren't that strong. Next is The Children of Atta, another incredible track. What a moment this song is. You can tell that there was a lot of inspiration behind it. I'm sure you're familiar with the tale, the true story that this song is based on. That inspiration, that hope, is reflected in the music so well. The verses have a beautiful emotional quality. The chorus took a while to grow on me, but it certainly has at this point. And I love how this track comes together. The tribal vocals and choir go so hard. It's such a powerful song with so many pretty moments. One of my favorite parts of this song might even be that final section at the very end with the choir and the orchestra sort of leading us out of the song as a reprieve. It's so uplifting, so stunningly beautiful. I always get emotional at that part. Unfortunately, the strangeness of the mix is apparent in the song at certain points, most notably in the bridge, just before the final chorus. The vocals sound completely drowned out there, but it doesn't interfere with my enjoyment of the song too much. Unfortunately, it is just one of those things that I have to bring up, since the song would be so perfect if the mix were just on point, you know. Next is Something Whispered Follow Me. This song is fine. I like how we're sort of exploring a doomy vibe with that guitar lick, a slower pace, darker chord progression, a little bit of dissonance here and there, a little bit of unexpected twists and turns. The song actually progresses very nicely. The chorus is of course quite catchy, and I love that Empu has some melodic guitar licks in the verses. However, the ending of this song is so long-winded, could easily have been shortened. The fact that it drags like that removes the impact that it could have had. Like, we didn't need a third reprisal of that main guitar riff. You guys are really messing with that one. Come on now. Because it's such a slow and dragging guitar riff that two instances of it were enough, and then it goes back to another one. Like, I don't know what you guys were thinking with that. Yeah, so this is one of the weaker tracks overall because it is too long. The ideas in it are solid and quite pretty, but when you're writing a song, you have to know when the song is overstaying its welcome. This track just didn't need to be 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Spider Silk is definitely one of the stronger songs on the album. The intro and the outro focused on piano and sort of a Wild Western style guitar. and orchestra and choir. I've heard people criticize these parts for being too long, but in fact, I love these parts. I think they fit really well with the overall atmosphere of the song. And again, they add a really interesting texture. The way the song is composed, all the melodies sort of evoke that image of a spider scuttling, especially in the orchestra. So this is another song where the inspiration, the level of inspiration was so apparent, and it really informs every part of it. The chorus is also pretty catchy, even though this is kind of a nerdy thing I'll bring up. The chord progression in the chorus largely is a little bit predictable for me, considering how interesting the rest of the composition is, with all of its flats and sharps and cool stuff like that. And there is even like a sort of a sharp vocal melody that Floor does in the chorus, which I really appreciate. So largely it does come together very well. Just the slight predictability of the chord progression in the chorus and the spin away part also I'm unsure about, but it is one of the stronger songs on the album. I would just love for the spider theme to really have caught on in the chorus fully is all. Next is Hiraeth. It was this point of the album that I started to feel like, whoa, we've really ran out of steam here, you know? Like to have Children of Atta, so energetic. Something Whispered, Follow Me, so slow. Spider Silk, so energetic. Hiraeth, back to slow again. Like there's no flow to this latter part of the album. Hiraeth, at least the first half of Hiraeth, is fairly unremarkable. As I said in my initial reaction, my feelings haven't changed much. It's fine. It's a competent little melody, but sounds kind of like something Tuomas could write in his sleep. And Troy's vocals really take me out of this song. His vocals are straight up off key. He's not even in tune here. So I'm grateful to Floor for saving this track, but it's difficult to enjoy the song when even when he's attempting to harmonize with her, he's so out of tune and she's so in tune. That is a shame, really. I've noticed that Nightwish don't apply any tuning to their vocals on studio recordings, which is really unusual and old school. Most modern groups will apply some level of tuning to the final vocal stems, just so you don't get anything too off key, but you can hear little hints of the vocals being out of key on Nightwish albums, and it's usually so slight that it's imperceptible and it adds to the authenticity of it. That's a great thing, of course, that you're getting that authentic vocal performance. But Troy could really do with some editing on the vocals. Like, if you guys insist on having Troy on these songs, at least tune his vocals, will ya? Because it's moments like this that I can't get over. I just can't get over it. But then, of course, there's that break in the song where we get a great rock moment. The pipes come in. By the way, love Troy's pipes on this album. And this song is a really great example of where his pipes shine and they really elevate the song. And the second half of this song is really just outstanding work. Very emotional, a fantastic crescendo. Like, it's epic without focusing on heavy riffing. It's really epic while focusing on melody. There's a really cool halftime groove to it. It's a really stunning ending to the song. So yeah, my feelings on this song are mixed, but despite my complaints, I have mostly positive feelings toward this track, and I even consider it a standout in the track listing. Next is The Weave. Excellent song. If it were up to me, maybe some of the vocal melodies could do with some added catchiness, as they are quite legato. You know, we're going the total opposite direction from the rapping, where now the vocal melodies are maybe a little bit too legato and could do with a little jaggedness here and there, but I actually think that this song is really well balanced overall. It's so heavy. The idea in the lyrics that the lyrics are sort of reversed halfway through the song is such a sick idea, and really actually serves to make the song and the vocals so interesting. Definitely one of the strongest songs on the album. I love the little, spooky Tim Burton vibes here and there. The orchestra goes crazy. Floor's voice on this song totally gagged me. Love that she had this moment to really shine immensely. Just a super well crafted song. But once again, it's an odd placement for this song, coming right after Hiraeth and before Lanternlight. Very strange. And finally, Lanternlight. On initial listen, I didn't care much for this song because I didn't really know about the song's meaning, and I was becoming a little bit fatigued with all of the ballads on the album. But now that I have gotten some time to get to know the song, it's really beautiful. Floor's vocal performance is just astounding. It's masterfully composed, and it does take some weird turns. For example, right after the main chorus, it transitions into a sort of piano orchestra part, but I actually really like that transition, and once that piano part finishes, the transition back into another verse is so gorgeous. That's what Tuomas is really good at, just creating those magical moments. And of course, this song is particularly personal to him and dear to his heart, and it totally shines through in the music and the final result. The song builds wonderfully into a big climax, and then when the song is sort of being brought down, that is when it's at its most emotional, because it is evoking the sense of passing to the next life. And it's very profound, powerful moment. Very well done, except for Troy's vocals here. Would love for Floor to have taken those parts. So again, just another moment where his voice takes me out of the album in what is potentially supposed to be its most emotionally impactful moment. So darn, darn, but all right. So with all that being said, I'd like to share with you guys my suggested reordering. And here it is. Let me know if you see the vision here. Let me know if you agree with what I'm getting at. We start the album with The Weave. Can you imagine how powerful that song will be as an opener? I think the Antikythera Mechanism is a good second track. The Children of Atta gives us a moment of emotion after all the heaviness. Something Whispered Follow Me is a reprieve from all of the energy. Then we move into Yesterwynde. And I know that Yesterwynde has the projector starting and Lanternlight ends with the projector starting, but just humor me here for a sec. An Ocean of Strange Islands is a good centerpiece. We've saved some of the best material for halfway through the album. The Day Of is a good stylistic switch up at the halfway point. Then we get more great symphonic metal with Spider Silk. Ideally, I would remove Sway, but if it had to be in the album, I would put it here. Hiraeth in number 10 is a good choice, and it's number 10 on the actual album track list because it does have that beautifully emotional climax. But I think that climax is kind of negated by having The Weave come right after it. It's a bit of a clash tonally, so I think Perfume of the Timeless as the traditional long album closer would fit beautifully. And then of course Lanternlight is a completely appropriate ending to the record. Now that's just my nerdy reordering. I'd love to hear your ideal reordering if you think a reordering is necessary. And I do acknowledge that it's a little bit ballsy of me to even suggest that the album be reordered. I just feel so strongly about the flow of this record that I had to get my thoughts out in terms of that and just do a little thought experiment. So in conclusion, after all of that, if I had to give this album a solid rating, I would probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. Even though I feel like I've complained a lot throughout this review, I think it's a very strong album for all of the positive reasons that I've already mentioned. The performances, the songwriting, the emotional depth of these songs especially is what this album has going for it. If it weren't for the mixing, some of the bloating, and Troy's vocals, and the curious flow of the album, this album would get a much higher score. Just that little bit more of a compact sensibility when crafting these songs will go a long way. In my humble opinion, of course, this entire review is just my personal thoughts. I know that I have come across probably as somewhat personally invested and frustrated in a lot of my comments, but I'm okay with revealing that part of myself to you since I really am just a music fan. All of us music fans have very strong opinions on things. I mean all of my comments respectfully. I hope that you've enjoyed this honest review. Let me know your thoughts if you agree with me or disagree. The last thing to talk about and address is where this album probably sits amongst the rest of their catalogue. So I do plan on doing a Nightwish album ranking video very soon. From the way I've discussed it, you might be able to guess generally where it might sit, but I won't know until I do that video. Alright, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. I am on Patreon if you fancy some exclusive content and song review requests. Other than that, please like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks so much and take care.